What's up, everybody? Welcome to first class of functional mobility and yoga. So first of all, the poses that we go through are not the end-all be-all. None of these poses are correct or incorrect per se. It's really up to the individual. So the kind of key that I want you to remember while you're going through these classes with me, since I'm not able to correct you in person, is to listen to your body. Just like any yoga class, you want to make sure that you're tuned in to the practice. Again, if you have any pain during any of these movements, stop immediately. Whatever pose that you're in, stop and back out of it slowly. The idea here is to follow easy rule of thumb, the red light, yellow light, green light. So if a pose hurts, if any of these mobility movements hurt you, stop. That's a red light. Pain is a red light. We don't want any pain. You shouldn't be in any pain in any of this stuff. This should feel amazing. Yellow light is something where you may have had a previous injury in the area, or you're really tight somewhere, and maybe you go into the pose a little deeper than usual or something, and you notice your body's a little hesitant, it's a little uncomfortable. You might feel like you're not in pain, but you're on the threshold of maybe going a little too far. That's a yellow light. That means slow down, take some caution, take a look around what you're doing, find out if it's conducive to your body and your movement practice, because everybody's got a different starting point, and all we're trying to do is just expand upon where we are individually. So if it's a yellow light, that's a sign for you to pay attention, notice, breathe, take a moment to see if everything's okay. Green light is everything's kosher, we're totally fine, you're feeling great. Go ahead and move and breathe into those positions to expand your mobility, to expand your range of motion. So just make sure that you're not trying to push any of these positions too hard. This class is going permanently, essentially, week by week. So you've got plenty of time to expand and grow and improve your mobility and movement practice. So don't rush things, take your time. As far as the names of the poses, I'm going to use a combination of performance training cues and names. You'll hear a lot of anatomy and kind of functional movement style cueing that I'll be using. I don't actually use any of the Sanskrit language for my yoga classes, simply because most people don't know what any of that means. I don't know a lot of it myself. And so everything will be familiar in the sense of the understanding of the cueing that I'll be using. A lot of the names of the exercises and the mobility movements that we do will be new to you, and that's totally okay. You'll recognize some of the translations for different yoga poses that I'll do, but a lot of different practices have different names for the same pose. So let's get started. We're going to start in a seated position here. We can go easy pose with the legs crossed. That's the name of this pose, crisscross applesauce here. Or you can sit on your heels if that's more comfortable for you. I'll show that variation in a little bit. I've got some props here behind me. This is some of my exercise equipment that I have at my house. I'm going to keep these classes as minimalist as possible, so you don't need to do any equipment. You can do them anywhere you want if you're on the road or you don't have any extra equipment at home. So I'll let you know in the beginning of the class if we are going to use anything like a strap or blocks or a cushion, anything like that, which is a good example for easy pose. If you feel like your sit bones are a little uncomfortable on the ground, or you're a little tight in the hips, puts a little pressure on the knees, elevate your bottom by putting a pillow or some sort of bolster underneath you. I have a stability disc. So it's just a cushion. It doesn't really matter. You can use a foam roller too. I've used that before. you can just slip that under, and that'll elevate your hips a little bit. We'll take a little bit of that pressure out of the hips and the knees if that feels more comfortable. So once you're in your seated posture here, we are just going to perform some deep breathing. This is going to be something that I will expand upon in much greater detail as we go through these classes, but I am a huge believer in breath work, and I'll explain more as we go, like I said, but we'll just get into it right now with some deep belly breathing, trying to relax the body, start to still the mind, and focus on being here in this class. So we're just going to take some deep breaths in through the nose, and then exhale through the mouth. Trying to expand the rib cage as we breathe in. Lengthening the spine, find a slight pause at the top, exhale through the mouth. Let everything relax. We're just going to repeat this pattern. You can follow along with me. You can go at your own pace. I take big breaths. I take long pauses. I love it. It feels really good. Feel free to take shorter breaths if that feels good. You're just listening to your body, following your intuition here. Keep deep breathing here. We're going to do this for a few minutes. What we're trying to do is get the body to circulate some oxygen and blood and nutrients through the system, expel that carbon dioxide, calm the mind, decrease the heart rate, center your attention here on this practice. Deep breath in. And big exhale out. Find some enjoyment here in this breath. The average person breathes 23,000 times per day. Inhale. And exhale. Just continue that pattern. Breath is the key to life. The better we breathe, the better we move, the better we think, the better we feel. We're going to continue to breathe here for another couple minutes. Big breath in. Exhale, mouth open out. Notice my position here as I sit, keeping my spine nice and straight. I'm focusing on maintaining an upright position here. I'm not rotating my pelvis forward to arch my back, but I'm also not collapsing my pelvis backward and rounding my low spine, getting my sit bones nice and even on the ground here, feeling slight engagement in my core as I'm trying to stack my spine like dominoes, like Jenga, all the way up. Notice my shoulders are just slightly pulled back here. We can externally rotate the shoulders open by placing the palms up, thumbs out, traditional easy pose meditative posture here. And again, there's no wrong way to do this. The really only goal when we're in easy pose or when we're in a meditative posture in general is just to straighten the spine and find a relaxed but attentive posture. We can do that from our backs. We can do that from a seated position. We can do that from a standing position. So you can find these little moments where you can collect a few breaths, a few conscious, controlled breaths anytime throughout the day. It can be while you're driving to work. It can be right before bed when you're laying down. It can be standing in line for the cafeteria if you're getting food or you're waiting to check out at the grocery store. Just take a couple deep breaths. Take that moment to connect yourself with everything else around you. Take note of your environment and be happy that you're here, that you're breathing. now we're going to inhale through the nose as before. And then we're going to exhale through the nose. Now hopefully my mic is picking this up for you. This is called Ujjayi breathing, where we want to throat whisper. Essentially, you're closing your airway just slightly as you're breathing, and it will make a little whisper sound, a deep kind of ocean wave sound as you breathe. Exhale. Keep breathing here with me. Inhale. Expanding the ribs, lengthening the spine like someone's drawing you up tall. Exhale. Letting everything sink back down, just like the ocean waves. Inhale. Hear the sound that it makes. I like to visualize sitting on the beach, listening to the waves coming and crash. A really peaceful way to connect your body and your breath with your mind. One more big breath in. We're going to work on a little bit of joint mobilization, and these are called controlled articular rotations. All that really means is we're going slow and controlled with intention through our articulations, which are the movements at our joints, and we're going to create full circles, full rotations through the end range capacity of what our joints individually can allow us to do. Some people's circles will be bigger. That's not the point. The point is to own your ranges of motion that you can control without compensating any other joint. So we're going to work one joint or one pair group of joints at a time. I want you to think about keeping the rest of your body as still as you can, creating some contractions in your body, flexing a little bit, create some tension. Flexing the legs, flexing the arms, whatever body part, joint that we're working is going to be moving nice and slow. Everything else we want to keep as still as possible. So that way we know all of our focus is going on that one joint. We're not thinking about little compensations here and there. We're keeping everything else still as a statue and focusing all our energy on that one joint. The reason here is because we want to think of this as an individual warm-up for each joint, each section of the body, because joints cannot work well together until they work well by themselves. Just like anything, right? We can't be great teammates or great leaders until we can control ourselves. A leader of one is a leader of many. If you can't lead one, you can't lead any. So we want our joints to work independently, and then we will start to work them together interdependently once they're all individually warmed up. Think of it like a sport, a team sport. Every teammate has their own individual practice or warm-up that they do before the game. Some of them like to listen to music, meditate, some of them like to get in extra shots, or whatever the case may be, but they warm up themselves first, and then they start doing team warm-ups together, practicing for the game. So we're going to go through and just do a few of the major joints of the body. We're going to work the spine first, going from the midline of the body out, proximal to distal, distal being distance away from the midline. And we'll work the spine, the shoulders, and the hips. Those are our big joints that we want to make sure those are going. And as we go through the classes, I'll continue to teach you guys more and more of the controlled articular rotations, which is one of the methods of the functional range conditioning certification through Dr. Andrea Spina. and it's very effective. I use it with my clients in person, and that's why I wanted to integrate some of this functional mobility work into your yoga practice. It's going to really, really benefit you in the long term. So we're going to start with the neck, and I will demonstrate as we go, and you're just going to follow along. There is no right or wrong. We're just going to practice here. If you notice that there's any pain in any of these rotations, you just want to shy away from that area of pain. You don't want to dive into it. Go around it, work on the circle around the rest of the area. We're just trying to lubricate and warm up these joints and these tissues to get you to practice more efficiently when you use them all together. So for our neck, we're going to work first on bringing the chin down to the chest. Nice and slow. Notice I'm keeping the rest of my body still. Once we've run out of room here, we're going to hit our end range. We're going to rotate chin to shoulder. Once we run out of range, and this is about as far as I can go, now I'm going to tip sideways like I'm pouring water out my ear. And then I'll feel a nice stretch through the side body here. I'll be moving a little bit to give you guys some demonstrations as we go, but try to keep the rest of your body nice and still. Then we're going to tip our head back. If you've ever been to a salon, you get your hair washed. It's like tipping your head back into that sink. Nice and slow, we're going to start rotating the chin across the ceiling until we get to the other side and run out of room. Now you'll start to notice that we're finding that same position where we were dumping water out the ear, but we're on the other side. So now we're going to tip sideways to bring our chin back down to our shoulder, our collarbone. When we finish our circle, bringing the chin back down to the chest, down to the sternum. We're going to do another circle. We're going nice and slow here. Tension in my legs. I'm flexing my legs a little bit, flexing my core, stabilizing here on my knees with my arms. Tipping ear back to shoulder. And then tip the crown of the head back. Rotate through. Lightly pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Try and keep your lips closed. They open, it's not a big deal. Especially at first here, you probably feel some pretty intense stretches, which is why we're going so slow. You are exploring your own capabilities. And the body is really good, one more circle, at compensating or finding a different way to do what you want it to do that might not be the best way. And so when we slow it down and really isolate one joint, you realize, wow, not as good as I thought I was rotating my head. We're going to go back the other way, same thing, chin to collarbone. Tip the ear, dump out the water. Chin goes up, crown goes back. Big stretch through here. Feeling the front of the neck open. Dumping water out the other side. Tilting the head. Finishing our circle. We're going to do two more. Keeping our tension, remembering to stabilize the rest of the body so we can isolate the joints that we're working. Hopefully the mic is picking up all this audio as I talk away from the camera. And again, if you have like a little crunch, a little pain on one side, just take a little bit out and make a smaller circle. You don't have to tip all the way back. You don't have to tip all the way to the side. A controlled circle is more efficient than a painful circle, or a sloppy circle, or a circle that's using more joints than the one that we're working. So that's our neck, which is our cervical spine. Now we're going to work our mid-back, which is from the bottom of the neck to the bottom of the rib cage. And this is our thoracic spine, our T-spine. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to focus on this part of the spine. So we're going to bring the collarbones down. We can even exhale here. Notice that will crunch down this space like an accordion. We're going to rotate to the side. Trying not to move the hips, keeping the chin in the same position. Then we're going to tip to the side, and we're trying to spread these ribs apart underneath the armpit. And then as we tip back, we're spreading these ribs open. Make sure that we're not arching our low back here. You're not going to be able to get huge circles on this one. There's not a ton of range of motion in the T-spine. But it's essential range of motion to transfer force up and down the spine efficiently, so we don't bang on our other joints. Okay, there's a full circle to the right. Do two more this way. Notice I'm still keeping flexed in the rest of my body. For the arm position here, we can change the arms. I'll do on this last circle. Go ahead and try this one. Give yourself a hug. And notice here, when we squeeze tight, we create more isolation for that T-spine, because now my arms and shoulders can't move as much. I'm squeezing them down. Those joints are locked in. Notice I'll be able to get more range of motion here. Twist first. Bend second. Opening up this side body, spreading those ribs apart, and then opening up the sternum, front of the body, opening up this side body as we come to the other side, coming back down and through. Might feel a nice good stretch through some of those bits and pieces of the back here. Opening, rotating, and back through. We're going to do the same thing the other way. Rotate through. These don't have to be perfect. They just have to be intentional. Slow, controlled, and intentional. You gotta stay within your limits, but go to the boundary line of your limits. Open up that space. Start to feel the spine opening up here. Your circles might be getting a little bigger. The last circle is usually bigger than the first. Right there here. Now we are going to work a little on the shoulders. We're going to come down to side lying position. So tuck the knees into the chest here, so that way we're keeping our low back nice and flat. You can put a pillow underneath your head if you want to support there, or you can just use this hand and rest here. Either way is fine. What we're going to do is work this shoulder, this top shoulder. And we're going to do the same idea here with rotating. So we're going to have our arm out here, and we're going to start by drawing a line, an invisible line, into a circle. Notice I'm creating contractions in my abs, squeezing my legs together and going nice and slow. Now when I come up to the point where I run out of room here, this is shoulder flexion, bringing my arm up. Then I'm going to externally rotate from the capsule, elbow, and wrist. Don't just rotate from the wrist and the elbow. Rotate from the shoulder itself. And that looks like this as I open up. I'm trying to peel my armpit open up to the ceiling. And then continue to rotate. So my thumb is starting to slowly turn down into internal rotation. That's this way. And I finish back here. This is extension behind the body. So this is about as far as I can get back there, feeling a nice range. Don't let the arm collapse. Try to maintain the same horizon line throughout your whole circle. Where the arm is up here in front, it's going to be the same distance off the ground in the back. So I'm coming up, maintain tension here. Palm comes up, armpit comes up, externally rotating open without letting my spine twist. Notice I'm not twisting my shoulders, my legs are staying in the same position. Once I run out of room here, I can feel myself naturally want to start rotating my shoulder the rest of the way. I find my end position here, an internal rotation, and then I come back through. We'll go one more this way. Reaching up, opening, and then we're just going to reverse it. We're going to go backwards with this circle. So I'm going to start in internal rotation, thumb pointed down. Straight arm. Don't let the elbow bend. Don't let the wrist bend. We don't want those joints to help out here. No compensation. Straight, stiff arm. That's about as far as I can go. Now I'm going to externally rotate to get that palm up, armpit up position as I continue my circle all the way through. There's that position. I can feel when I stretch through my pec here. And then I finish rotating close as I find my end position here at the top. And just finish my circle through nice and slow. Let's go 2 more of those. Internally rotated, thumb down. Straight back, straight elbow. Reach into your end range. There's a good stretch. Pull it open. And again, if this hurts at all, decrease the size of your circle as opposed to reaching all the way back here. You would just go right here. Even if it's just the arm coming up overhead, we're still training that joint to move independently. We're still lubricating the tissues in the area. We're still warming up efficiently. Reaching back, opening. Very nice, guys. So we're going to do the same thing, but for the hip. So the only difference here, as opposed to keeping the leg straight like we do with the arm, we're going to keep this leg bent. And we're going to try to imagine, you can even grab something like a golf ball or a tennis ball and squeeze it between the calf and the hamstring here. That's going to help you keep this closed down so that way we know we're not compensating in the knee and the elbow and we're focusing just on the hip here. We want all the rotation in the hip capsule, okay? So these ones are usually pretty hard for most people. Expect your circle to be small. That's totally okay. We just want to slowly expand our space as we go here. So we're going to start by bringing the knee up. That's our flexion. Once we run out of flexion, then we're going to open it up like the clamshell exercise here. Notice I'm still keeping my knee up, close to my rib cage. That's about as far as I can go. I'm running out of room. Now we're going to internally rotate, just like we did palm down, armpit down. What we're doing here is we're trying to kick this pinky toe, this back heel, out behind us while keeping this knee up in the air. What that is axial rotation. Essentially, we're rotating the femur in the socket of the hip capsule, okay? So we're kicking back into internal rotation, trying to keep this knee up high, and then we're going to continue to push back through into our extension position, maintaining ankle, lateral ankle to ceiling to keep that internal rotation. There's about the end range for me. And you don't want to let that low back or pelvis get into play here, which is why we're going slow. We're staying flexed in the core, keeping this leg pulled up. And then we just come down and back through to finish our circle. Let's do 2 more of those. You can squeeze down here with these arms to create a little bit more tension, create a little bit better contractions to isolate and avoid compensation. Internally rotate, as we kick back. Ankle and heel go to ceiling. Knee comes back behind. Slowly lower. Don't let that pelvis shift. And then finish through. You'll notice I have pretty tight hips. And I don't have the greatest range of motion on these circles. You may be thinking, that's a lot better than mine, John, but that's okay. I've only been doing these for less than a year. I started implementing controlled articular rotations on an almost daily basis in July-ish. There's 3 that way. We're going to reverse it, same way. So you can get a lot of progress in a short amount of time if you apply consistency, just like anything else in life. Don't let the pelvis tip back here. Keep the abs strong. Notice I'm tight right here. I'm running out of room. So now I'm kicking up and trying to come into that that externally rotated position like my clamshell as I bring quad to rib cage. And then slowly come back down, continuing to drive knee in closer to the chest. Finding a bigger circle as I start to warm up, as I start to open up. Hip extension here. Not going to get a lot of hip extension before that low back wants to kick in, so make sure you're not compensating there. Leg comes up. Make it a little crampy here in that TFL, IT band insertion right there. And that's because those tissues aren't used to the demand that you're placing on them in an isolated position like this. Which again, whenever you feel inadequate in a position, that's a good sign. Hey, I need to do some more of these. Okay, kick back. Last one here. Open up, keep that hamstring contracted. Pulling with that glute medius, side glute. Drive knee up. Find your externally rotated position. And come back down. Okay, we're just going to flip over to the other side. We're going to do the same thing with the shoulder and the hip on the other side. Come over here. Find my side lying position, fetal position here. We'll go a little bit quicker on this side. Excuse me. Palm open, armpit open. And you'll notice too, like right here, I can tell, wow, this side feels tighter today. Maybe it'll be the other side tomorrow. Who knows? It depends on the activities that you do, how you use those tissues. Thumb down, internally rotating that shoulder, and coming back through. Maybe you sat in the car and leaned towards that middle console. You had a long drive, and your right shoulder got a lot tighter than the left. So that would mean spend a little more time on the one that's tight. You can do a few more circles on your own. When you wake up in the morning before you go to bed at night, it's a great time to do it. I usually will implement about 10 minutes or so of controlled articular rotations like this in the morning. It's the best time to do it when your body is warming up for the day. It's been stagnant for 6, 7, 8 hours, how long you've been sleeping. So the first thing you want to do is wake it up appropriately, as opposed to just throwing on your clothes, grabbing a breakfast bar, getting in your car, getting into another static position, and then driving to work, getting out of your car, rushing into work, sitting down in your office chair, another static position, and then you're going to the lunchroom, sitting down again, static position, driving home, sitting down on the couch, another 2 hours, static position. You wonder why you're tight, why you're achy, maybe in a little bit of pain. It's because the body's not getting the adequate motion that it needs so it can lubricate the tissues, get better circulation, it can help function more efficiently. Let's go backwards now. Thumb down, internally rotated at the shoulder. Once I'm out of room here in extension, I start to pull back farther as I externally rotate and open that shoulder, palm up, armpit up, big stretch through the pec. As I finish my circle,
drawing that line with my arm. Notice my wrist is straight, my elbow is locked. Abs are engaged. I'm not letting my rib cage roll open. As I find this back position, I don't want to have the body twist here. Just working that shoulder. Let's get one more of those. In this class, I'm obviously spending more time instructing you through these controlled articulations because it's something we're going to be doing a lot of. So I want you to have a good fundamental understanding of how the principles of these methods help to improve your movement quality and reduce your pain. So we'll go to the hip next, driving knee up, kicking back into extension, back of the heel opens, up to the ceiling as I continue to extend back. Don't let that pelvis change position here. Keep those abs tight. Keep this front leg driving up. Come down through the chest. Opening, maintaining your position. Rotating the femur in the socket. Ankle and heel go to ceiling as we continue to kick that knee back behind us, squeezing that hamstring. And finish the circle. We got one more this way. Abs engaged. You can even breathe into the low belly here a little bit to trap some air. That's called creating intra-abdominal pressure. It's very similar to what a weight belt would do when you see someone put a weight belt on at the gym. They're trying to create more intra-abdominal pressure to brace their spine and core, and again, that's going to help reduce compensations, reduce your risk of incorporating the spine into our movement here. We're going to go backwards. First, contracting the hamstring, driving the knee back. I feel like I'm a little limited here on extension on this side as well. Coming up and open, and you're just taking note of those areas where you're like, ooh, that is rough. I need to do some more of those circles. I need to go a little slower there. Or maybe there's pain and you're like, hey, maybe I should go, see a massage therapist. Maybe I should go see my doc and have him take a look at this shoulder or hip and give me a better understanding of why there's pain here. Because if you tell him, hey, I've been doing these joint circles, I'm getting really, really bad pain, there could be a structural issue that you need to take care of. But if it's just crunching, popping, but no pain at all, you're usually okay. Just yellow light. Make sure you're paying attention to the signs your body's giving you. Last one. Lift. And you should naturally expand your range of motion and your movement fluidity over time. So that's our controlled articular rotations for the neck, T-spine, shoulders, and hips. And again, we can do that in any position we want. We don't have to do those in seated position, inside lying. As we go through these classes, I'll teach you different variations, different progressions to where you can use these standing up or all of them in a seated position. And the more variability that you provide your body with, the more you can move different ways in space and have an understanding of how your body's supposed to get there appropriately, which is going to reduce your risk for injury over time. So that's ultimately the goal. Improve movement quality, reduce pain and injury. So now we're going to get into a little bit of dynamic mobility stuff using more of the joints together, and then we'll finish off with a sun salutation sequence for this first class. As we go, I'm going to continue from class to class, incorporate more and more yoga. I've got a lot of stuff to go over with you guys. I can't wait to share it all, but we can only do so much each class. So let's go another 20 minutes or so, and we'll see where we get with those sun salutations. Okay? So we're going to come up into half kneeling position. Half kneeling means we're kneeling with one leg while the other leg is up. And you notice that I've got a vertical shin, horizontal thigh, horizontal shin. So this is called a 90-90 position. You'll see 90-90 in a seated position. You'll see it in a half kneeling position, but you'll hear me refer to the 90-90 frequently. But essentially, we are trying to create a nice, strong kickstand here with this front leg. This back leg, you can have the toes down or the toes up if you want a little more stability. It's a little bit more of a prop for you to hold yourself up on. The biggest thing that we want to focus on here is hip extension without spine extension. So you'll often see people get into this position here. They're actually not in true hip extension. I want a straight line all the way through. So what do I have to do? I have to engage my glute and engage my low core, engage my abs. That's going to tilt my pelvis to a neutral position. So imagine that your pelvis is a bucket of water. What I'm trying to do is keep the water in the bucket by bringing it to a neutral position. You don't want to spill water out the back of the bucket like this, where we're dumping water this way, and we don't want to dump water out the front of the bucket. So that's going to take your practice. You can even use a mirror to find out where neutral is. You can rock forward, rock back, until you feel that position. For me, there's my neutral, okay? And this left glute is slightly engaged. These deep core muscles are slightly engaged, and I'm kind of sandwiching my pelvis and low spine together to create stability in that neutral spine, okay? This will most likely fire up a pretty good hip flexor and quad stretch for you as you engage this glute and pull in these abs. No tension on my quad, lost my neutral spine, squeeze glute, squeeze abs. There's my pelvic tilt, there's my quad stretch. If this is too much of a quad stretch, drop the foot down. Now we're taking some of the tension out, and I can push into that position a little bit more comfortably without having to try to force myself into it, okay? So whatever's more comfortable, the key, neutral pelvis, stable glute and abs to protect the low back, okay? So this is my half kneeling position. You'll hear me talk about this all the time. We're gonna do some half kneeling, spinal flexion and extension. Mainly, we're working our upper spine, our T-spine, from here to here, and then our neck will get a little involved too. We don't want to overemphasize our low back here. We're just trying to work on opening on the upper back. Think about the spine being a tree. The base, the trunk of the tree, pretty steady, not a lot of movement. It's more for rooting down into the ground, staying stable. The top of the tree bends and sways with the wind, and if it wouldn't, the tree would break. The spring branches have a little bit better ability to flow and then go back to their original shape. So that's our idea here. We want the top of the tree to be nice and mobile and have stability in the lower part, the trunk of the tree, the low spine. That doesn't mean the low spine will not move. We want to encourage movement throughout the whole body, but we want to emphasize movement in the upper body here, okay? So we're going to start just by that wrapped around position again, giving ourselves a hug, squeezing here. That's going to help us isolate our spine. And then we're going to take a big breath in as we inhale the throat and the chest up. Notice I'm still keeping a pretty neutral low spine. You're not going to see a big arch in my low back. And then I'm going to exhale, bringing the chin down. Then the shoulders. And then from here, I'm going to crunch my elbows down to my pelvis and engage my abs, flex my abs as I exhale. Exhale all the air like you're blown out of a straw. And then inhale back. You'll notice when you exhale that your ab muscles actually contract more than if you were to just try to do the crunch. And that's because your ab muscles actually are involved in the breathing process. If we don't fully use our inhales and exhales, we don't fully contract the muscles of the core. If you ever go for a sprint, you'll know that those ab muscles are working. The next day, your abs will be sore from sprinting because they were so busy trying to get oxygen in and get that carbon dioxide out that they had to do a lot more work than they're used to doing. So that's a really good sign for you to remember to fully breathe, fully take advantage when you're working your spine and your core of your ability to create better contractions using your breath, using your exhales. I use the example, exhale like you're crunching an accordion. Get all that air out, okay? Let's go one more. And exhale back down. Okay, now we're going to switch legs. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, except now we're going to use our arms here to encourage larger movements. Now we've opened up the spine a little bit more. Let's get the shoulders involved and increase the amount of bend in the upper back. So we're going to inhale and bring the arms up with us. Notice I really squeeze my glute on this one because I'm bringing myself back farther, there's more of a chance to bend my low back. And I don't want to encourage that low back to bend, put any pressure on that spine. So I think more about lifting my rib cage up, opening my chest to the ceiling, trying to touch the ceiling while I really squeeze this back glute. Big inhale at the top. And then when I exhale, come all the way through and let your arms come down with you. Exhale the core. Pull the arms back behind. Here's our shoulder extension, just finishing that movement, getting the shoulders involved. Still maintaining tension here, stabilizing that spine. Inhale back up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Let's go one more. And exhale down. Okay, we're going to stay in the same position. We're going to do half kneeling, lateral flexion. So we're going to bend side to side, open up this side body. This is one of my favorite ones. I get really tight in the lats. So you should feel this from the PSIS, the back of the hip, all the way up through the armpit, sometimes into the tricep and the elbow, okay? So we're going to have one arm go down while the other arm goes up, and then we're just going to switch back and forth. So we're going to start here by coming down our back leg and reaching up tall. Inhale. Feel that stretch through the top side body on the inhale, and then exhale back to midline. Big inhale up. Reaching down. We don't have to get to the floor here. And exhale back. We're just tipping back and forth. Last one this way. And last one the other way. Okay, we're going to switch legs. Same thing. I'll give you the other angle. This leg forward. Same idea here. We're going to tip down, inhale. Big stretch through that side body. Other side. Last one. Okay. So now our spine's opened up a little bit. We're going to start working into the hips and the shoulders. Again, we're going from the midline, working out.
So this next one, we're going to work what is known as a strider position. You'll see these a lot. You'll hear them referred to as a dragon lunge, sometimes in yoga, or lizard. We've got our back knee down. Notice I'm basically going from my half kneeling position and then extending this leg forward and coming down onto my hands. Notice I've still got a nice neutral spine. I'm not rotating my pelvis here. My pelvis is aligned here with the floor. Belly button is down. Rib cage is down. And I'm just hanging out here with a lot of the weight in my arms and this front leg. This is going to give you a really nice stretch through the hip capsule, through the hamstring, and through the groin of this front leg. We're trying to get the knee outside the ankle as we come down into this position. And I'll give you a side angle here a little bit. One thing I want you to make sure of is that you're not letting this heel come up and you're not letting this knee travel forward past the toes too far. If it's a little bit like that, that's okay. But we don't want to put the stress on the knee joint. We want to put the stress on the tissues, on the muscle. We want to open up the groin here. So we're just going to hang out in this position here. We're going to take a big breath in from our strider. And then we're going to slowly kick back, just pushing the hands back, rounding the spine forward, chin comes down, and we're lengthening this leg. So we're getting a lot of hamstring here in this position. And that's all we got to do. Just come back until you feel tension in that hamstring. Toes can stay down or come up. If you keep them down, you'll probably notice a little bit more of a stretch on the hamstring. When we finish that exhale, just pause in that end range, and then we hinge back forward. Weight goes into the hands. Proud chest, pushing the floor away. Exhale, sink back. This is kind of a forehead to knee style position here. We're in our regress. Level 1, stretch as we kick back. Big breath in. Exhale back. The more we dig this toe, the more we create that arch, the more we create tension through the entire kinetic chain from the bottom of the foot up to the bottom of the pelvis. One more this way. Opening that knee, we can even push here. Open that knee outside the ankle, get a good stretch, and then we're going to exhale back. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit more range of motion on that hamstring stretch, if you're able. If that's a big stretch, if you feel good, stay right there. No need to go farther. Listen to your body. For anyone else that's like, I'm not really feeling it, I want a little bit more, all you have to do is just continue to come back, bring the hips down to the heel, and straighten this leg all the way. Toes are going to come up, and you actually want to pull the toes up because that's going to increase the stretch on the calf and the back of the hamstring through the back of the leg there. And then we're getting a little bit more of that forehead to knee action. And then we hinge back into our strider position. Big breath. Exhale back. One more on this leg, then we'll switch it over. Finish that exhale, find your in-range pause, and then come back up. Okay, I'm going to use this other leg here in front to demo. We're going to start out nice and easy, opening the knee outside the ankle, keeping the knee behind the toe, keeping the foot pointed straight forward, not rocking up on the side of the foot here. Gripping down with the big toe, creating a nice arch in the foot. That will help you keep your joints stacked and aligned here. Big breath in, pushing the floor away. Exhale back. For those of you with good mobility, you can go right back into that second option, a little more forehead to knee. But if this feels like a good stretch, you can stay here. Again, like I said, my hips are pretty tight. Once they get nice and warm, I can get a little deeper into my positions, but
I'm not trying to rush this process. I'm trying to listen to my body and feel what feels best. Let's go 2 more on this side. And you got all the snaps, crackles, and pops. And then our last one for the hips that we'll do today is a strider with an overhead reach, which we're going to go into our full strider position for this one, which the only difference is when we go to our progressed level of strider is we just straighten this back leg and bring the back knee off the ground. Notice the position of the rest of my body stays exactly the same. Proud chest, long arms, knee goes outside toe, and I'm just lifting here. That's the only difference. If this is uncomfortable though, no need to rush, no need to take it to that level, okay? So keep the knee down. For anyone else that feels good, we're going to lift that knee up into our strider position. And now we're going to create a controlled articular rotation with our shoulder. We're going to use the arm that's closest to our front leg, okay? We're going to reach up, armpit opens, palm opens, we come all the way around. We're going to come into a half bind here. If this is comfortable, you can stay right here. But if this feels okay, we're going to half bind and open that chest up, okay? We're going to come back around from that position. If you're here, then just bring it all the way through. Now we're going to transition to the other side. This is called a hip slide. We are going to press up in the hips, rotate this back foot open, and then walk our hands across. Might not be the perfect position. You might have to move your feet around a little bit, especially at first, until you find your position. Then come into the other side here. Knee down for option 1, knee up for option 2. We've got our overhead reach. Armpit opens, palm opens. We come around, nice and slow, good control. And then finish half bind. Come back through. Find that strider pause before transitioning. Back foot opens, hips lift, straightening through this front leg, getting a nice quad stretch. Hamstring stretch. Notice we kind of coming through that wide leg forward fold position as we transition to the other side. Find our strider, overhead reach, arm goes straight up, palm armpit opens, internally rotate, close thumb down, finish with our half bind. We can even rotate the shoulder open to the ceiling here, getting a little bit more rotation through the spine. Coming back through, find that strider. You can press down, really open up the hips here. If this is comfortable, you can even touch down from the forearms. Open back foot, elevate the hips, rotate front foot. Find that wide leg forward fold position, pass right through it, open the front foot into our strider, come down, rotate open, overhead reach, back through, hips come up, rotate that back foot, rotate the front foot, brief pause in that forward fold, rotate through, and we're going to go one more each way. Picking the variations that are best fitted for you. Notice we're going nice and slow. There's no need to rush these positions. Feel what it feels like to move the body with control.
Try to isolate the joints and tissues that are moving so we can get a better understanding of how that body works. Okay? So that is the Strider overhead reach with a hip slide. We're just going to finish with a little floor sequence, not a full sun salutation. This is just on the ground, feel a little motion, and then we'll go into our final relaxation. We're going to start on our knees. We're going to go into a child's pose, which is big toes together, knees apart. Your knees will find the edges of your mat here as the feet come together. And then we're just going to come down with our hands and then push our hips back as we let the arms come farther forward. Our armpits and our nose and our forehead are going to come down to the ground. And this is child's pose. If you're ever looking for recovery in our classes as we continue to progress and add intensity, this is a great position to pause in and rest at your own time period. Hang out as long as you want. We'll do some breathing meditations in this position as well. Get used to child's pose. It's awesome. So hands come out roughly to the sides of the mat as well. Forehead comes down. Big breath into the belly, exhale. We're going to work through a moving flow here. I'll cue you as we go. We won't get too fancy with this. But match your breath to your movement here. We're going to inhale up into a plank position from the knees, keeping the hands where they are. Squeeze the glutes, find a nice straight spine, elbows stay relatively tucked in close to the body, using your fingers to push down into the floor. That'll help you come down nice and slow for crocodile. Then we're going to lift our hands gently off the ground, squeeze our glutes, lift the upper back, chin and chest for cobra. Exhale back down. Inhale, pressing up all the way this time, back through our plank, and then exhale back into our child's pose. We're going to work that flow a few more times, inhaling to our plank. Exhale, crocodile. Inhale, cobra, light on the hands. Exhale, down. Inhale, press up. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, plank. Exhale, crocodile. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, down. Inhale, up. Exhale, child's pose. Clear your mind here. Let's go a few more times. Last time through. We're going to take a couple breaths here in child's pose.
breathing here. Reconnect with that Ujjayi ocean wave, throat whisper breath. Inhale up to a tabletop. This is a tabletop position here, vertical form, vertical thigh bones, horizontal spine, making a nice table with the body. This is also referred to as quadruped, quad being 4, ped being your pedestals, 4 pedestals. So a biped or bipedal would be 2, which is how we walk around, we're bipeds. Quadruped would be more of the mammals in the animal kingdom. So tabletop, quadruped, you'll hear that a lot. That's this position here. We're just going to finish with 2 static stretches, deep stretches, and then we'll hit our final relaxation or Shavasana. So the first one here is going to be fixed firm, which is where we've got our knees outside, a little bit apart here, and we're just sitting back into our heels. If this is too much, then we just bring some weight forward into our hands and work on pushing our heels back, or our hips back to our heels. Okay, this one can be pretty tight. You can also put something like a disc or a blanket rolled up. A pillow works great, a couch cushion to sit back. That's going to decrease the amount of stretch and pressure on the knees and the quads. So if that feels a little bit more comfortable, that's totally fine. If this isn't enough, then we can start to work on coming backwards here. So just go ahead and find this position. And we're going to start to work deeper into it. And we're just going to hold long, slow breaths here. I'm going to teach you guys the breath count. Here's your second position. For our fixed firm, we can come back to the hands. Not trying to arch the low back much here. Notice I'm squeezing my glutes, which is going to tilt my pelvis, straighten out this low back, and increase the stretch on the quads anyway, which is our goal. So squeeze the glutes to lift and tilt that pelvis and increase your stretch. If this isn't enough, you can come down to the forearms on both sides. And if that's not enough, you can go all the way back down, head to ground. I'm going to save that position. I'm a little tight right now. I don't want to get into that. And I'll cue you guys to this breath count anyway. So find the position that's good for you. We're going to hang out here and work our 4-2-4-2 deep belly breath. This is our calming breath, our final relaxation breath, our deep stretching breath. You can use this for anything. This is my calming breath. This is the breath count that I use all the time. I do this in the sauna, right after I get done working out, at the end of a yoga session, in my meditations, all the time. It's a really good way to center yourself, find your breath, and calm the body and the mind. So 4-2-4-2 refers to our inhale for the first number. The amount of time between the inhale and the exhale is the second number, the pause. The third number is your exhale, and the fourth number is the amount of time between the exhale and your next inhale. So a 4-2-4-2 would be 4 seconds inhaling, 2 seconds holding your breath at the top, 4 seconds exhaling, and 2 seconds holding your breath at the bottom. So we're just going to work that 4-2-4-2 breath count right here. I'll count it through for you. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, breathing with you now. Last one, inhale. Hold. Exhale. And hold. And we slowly work ourselves back out of the position wherever we were, making sure to come up slowly. Find a neutral spine here, make sure the low back feels okay. Then we're just going to come down to our quadruped position here. Our second deep breathing pose is going to be rabbit pose, which is a forward flexing pose, very similar to child's pose, except notice I'm keeping my knees together and toes together as opposed to having the knees come out. What I'm going to do here is come down and find my child's pose position. Pull the belly button into the spine, let the hips rotate in together, come down. We're going to find forehead to mat if that's comfortable, if we can get there. If not, we can use our hands. If that's too much, we can use our fists. Okay, this is an oftentimes used variation just because it distributes weight through your spine a little different. Feels really nice. So you can go one hand, two hands, or bring forehead to the floor. Now from this position, we're going to reach our arms back and we're going to grab our heels. And then from this position here, we're going to pull on our heels with our arms, long arms, create some tension here in the glutes and in the legs, in the hammies. And we're going to lightly lift our forehead off the ground. The forehead doesn't have to come off the ground, but we're just trying to lengthen the spine through the crown of the head and take the weight out of the head. I'm squeezing here. Notice my arms are flexed. I'm pulling myself into my heels and my head is slightly lifted. I'm just keeping a long spine, neutral neck, feeling a good stretch through the crown of my head and the low part of my back. Now we're going to do our 4-2, 4-2 breath count from this position here. If this gets too uncomfortable at any point, just revert to our child's pose. Breathe with me here. Inhale, 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Long spine squeezing at the top, holding 2, exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, holding 1, 2. Let's get 3 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. With you now. And relax forehead down. Bring the hands back up to child's pose position. Rock forward, quadruped. We can come into a slight upward dog here just to stretch those hips out a little bit. And then we're going to make our way over to our backs for Shavasana. Final relaxation. Shavasana is the Sanskrit word for corpse pose.
The idea here is our body is completely still. We're not fidgeting, we're not twitching. If you have any movements that you need to do to kind of wiggle around or make an adjustment, if you want to grab a sip of water, any of that, do that first and then lay down, palms up, legs slightly spread apart, arms wherever you want them. You can have them overhead, to the side. There's no wrong way to lay comfortably on the ground as long as you're comfortable. So find a comfortable position here, and we're going to work that 4-2-4-2 breath count again, nice and slow. We'll just spend the last 2 minutes breathing in sync together here, and then we'll call it a day. Keep that spine nice and neutral. We'll start with our inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. 1, 2, exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. 1, 2, continuing on your own, inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding. On your own now, inhaling. Notice how your body feels here after mobilizing, after all the breathing. Start to let the tension go that's hiding in places that you don't notice until you're in complete stillness. You might feel the muscles of the face, of the eyebrows, the forehead, around the eyes, still holding on to a little tension. Just smooth that over with your next exhale, melting the tissues like a warm massage, letting your body naturally relax, find its perfect stillness, using your breath to search for that tension, working down to the neck and the shoulders, maybe releasing the shoulders down a little bit more to the mat, letting the arms sink into the floor heavy, letting the hands and the fingers go completely. Next big breath in, feeling the breath come into the stomach. Trying to avoid breathing into the rib cage, into the shoulders, into the chest and neck. Breathing just into the soft skin of the abdominals here, into that diaphragm. Expanding and opening the space between the rib cage and the pelvis. On the exhale, let the gravity naturally work here. Sinking the belly button down into the core. Feeling the pelvis and the hips. Release, maybe the feet turn out a little bit more. Relaxing the legs heavy into the ground. Scanning down to the feet. Making sure to release that last bit of tension out the fingers and toes. We're here together. Just breathing.
We start to come back into our body, start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. You can rub the thumb and the fingers together. And then bring the hands together, rubbing them side to side, stimulating the nerve endings in the hands and the palms. Thousands of nerve endings waking up the body. We can do the same with the feet here, creating large stimulus of sensation for the nervous system. Big breath in. Let it out, open mouth. One more big breath in. Exhale, open mouth. May the divine light in me, may the love in me honor the divine light and love in you. We are here together. Namaste. Have a great day, guys.